Applicant here is Hecka Incorporated. The location is 98 Sergeant T.M. Dion Way, located in Westfield, Mass. The three licenses being sought are a Tier 4 indoor cultivation license, product manufacturing license, and a retail license. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on March 13th of 2019. They conducted a community outreach meeting on February 6th of 2019. The commission did receive a municipal response for all applications on December 12th of 2019, stating that the applicant was in compliance with local ordinances and bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of provisional licenses subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Potvin. Any questions or comments before I ask for a motion? Commissioner McBride.
So looking at the product types, I would like to add a condition that they provide shapes for the chocolates, hard candies, and gummies prior to final licensure. I will acknowledge that they say that a full description will be available on their website, but I'd like for us to have those descriptions before it goes up on their website. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other concerns or questions? Commissioner Tao?
And this is Hecka, correct?
This is Hecka, yes. Are you going to screw me up again?
I just thought I would
check.
On the diversity plan, their goal number 1 and the accompanying measurement, if they would just redo that, because it was confusing to me. It sounded like they were going to place newspaper ads and then use the responses to the newspaper ads as a measure of diversity, which to Commissioner Flanagan's earlier point didn't make sense. If they would just redo that goal and the measurement.
Thank you. Commissioner Doyle?
I just want to take this moment to thank the staff for now incorporating the updated timeline requirement for anyone who has the priority MTC status with an MTC that is not operational. I really appreciate it.
I think that actually just reinforces the point that was made earlier, that staff has done a very nice job of listening to the Commission's conditions and incorporating them into their process. So just one more data point, but thank you. Any other questions or comments before? Okay, then we'll do 3 separate motions. First is to approve the staff recommendation on provisional licenses for Hecka Incorporated, MCN 282248, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please? Thanks, Commissioner McBride. Let the record show that the motion was made by Commissioner Doyle, seconded by Commissioner McBride. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission has to approve the staff recommendation on provisional license for Hecka Incorporated, MCN 282248, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Let me next ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on provisional license for Hecka Incorporated, MPN 281736, product manufacturer, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioner McBride and Commissioner Title. Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Doyle. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show that the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license for Hecka Incorporated, MPN 281736, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioners McBride and Title. Next, let me ask, please, for a motion to approve the staff recommendation for provisional license for Hecka Incorporated, MRN 282770, retailer, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Have such a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Title. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license for Hecka Incorporated, MRN 282770, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Thank you. Next, Hecka Incorporated, MRN 282903, Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant again here is Hecka Incorporated. The proposed location for this application is 745 East Street, located in Pittsfield, seeking a retail license. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on November 8th of 2018. The community outreach meeting was held on August 22nd of 2019, and the commission did receive a municipal response on January 21st of 2020, stating that the applicant was in compliance with local ordinances and bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license with the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Commissioner Title, are you interested in the same condition as you had on the previous 3 Hecka licenses? Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions before I ask for a motion? Okay, then can I ask please for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on a provisional license for Hecka Incorporated, MRN 282903, retailer, subject to the same conditions that Commissioner Title requested for the other 3 Hecka licenses. Can I have such a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Title. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue provisional license to Heck Incorporated MRN 282903, subject to the condition requested by Commissioner Title. Thank you. Next is Holistic Industries Incorporated MRN 282605, retailer, Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is Holistic Industries Incorporated. The proposed location is 155 Northampton Street, located in East Hampton, Mass. The license being sought here is a retail license. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on February 6th of 2019. The community outreach meeting was held on May 15th of 2019. The commission did receive a municipal response on November 7th of 2019, stating that the applicant was in compliance with local ordinances and bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Any questions or comments before I ask for a motion? Thank you. Then can I please have a motion to approve the staff recommendation on provisional license for Holistic Industries Incorporated, MRN 282605? Have such a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. I would ask my fellow commissioners to relieve Commissioner Doyle of her burden of being the motion maker on, I'd say, 70 to 80% of what we've done so far. So anyway, thank you, Commissioner Doyle. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show that Commissioner Doyle made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Title. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show that the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on Holistic Industries Incorporated, MRN 282605. Thank you. Next up is M3 Ventures Incorporated, MRN 282350, retailer, Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is M3 Ventures Incorporated. The proposed location is 29 Echo Road, located in Mashpee, Mass. The license being sought is a retail license. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on April 10th of 2019. A community outreach meeting was held on March 21st of 2019. The commission did receive a municipal response on December 12th of 2019, stating that the applicant was in compliance with all local ordinances or bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license with the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Are there questions or comments before I ask for a motion? Then can I please ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on provisional license for M3 Ventures Incorporated, MRN 282350?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Title. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license for M3 Ventures Incorporated, MRN 282350. Thank you. Guess we're halfway through. You make it?
Absolutely.
Good. I'm going to try to. Next up is Old World Remedies Incorporated, MRN 282742, retail, Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is Old World Remedies Incorporated. The proposed location is 953 Western Avenue, located in Lynn. The license being sought here is a retail license. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on August 30th of 2019. A community outreach meeting was held on June 10th of 2019. The commission did receive a municipal response from the municipality on December 18th of 2019, stating that the applicant was in compliance with local ordinances and bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license with the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Any questions or comments before I ask for a motion? Right, then can I ask, please, for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on provisional license for Old World Remedies Incorporated, MRN 282742?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Title. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license for Old World Remedies Incorporated, MRN 282742. Thank you. Next up is Pharmacanis, Massachusetts Incorporated, MCN 282047, Tier 7 Indoor Cultivation. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is Pharmacanis, Massachusetts Incorporated. The proposed location is 465 Hoppingbrook Road, located in Holliston. The license being sought is a Tier 7 Indoor Cultivation license. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on December 10th of 2018. A community outreach meeting was held on January 24th of 2019. The commission did receive a municipal response from the municipality on December 17th of 2019, stating that the applicant was in compliance with all local ordinances and bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license with the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Any questions or comments before I ask for a motion? Okay, and please could I ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on provisional license for Pharmacanis, Massachusetts Incorporated, MCN 282047? Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
sorry, I missed that. So motion, second?
Motion second.
Okay, let the record show that Commissioner McBride made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Pharmacannabis Massachusetts Incorporated, MCN 282047. Thank you. Platinum Hydrolab, co-located?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. The next two up, we'll have one discussion with separate votes. Platinum Hydrolab Incorporated, MCN 281510, cultivation tier 1 indoor, and Platinum Hydrolab Incorporated, MPN 281540, product manufacturer. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the applicant here is Platinum Hydrolab Incorporated. The proposed location is 740 Dutton Street, located in Lowell. The two licenses being sought are a Tier 1 indoor cultivation license and a product manufacturing license. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on November 21st of 2018. They conducted a community outreach meeting on May 21st of 2018. The commission received a municipal response on November 11th of 2019 and also for another application, the second application on January 16th of 2020, stating that the applicant was in compliance with all local ordinances or bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of 2 provisional licenses with the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Before I ask for a motion, are there any questions or comments? Commissioner McBride.
So in the list of products that are being produced, one of the strains is Jack Skellington brand. I don't know if anyone knows who Jack Skellington is. He's a Disney character from the movie The Nightmare Before
I guess that's
Christmas.
the problem with not having kids. I did not know that.
So I have a real concern that that branding is a violation of our regulation at 500.1054B4 that prohibits branding, including but not limited to mascots, cartoons, et cetera, deemed to appeal to a person younger than 21 years old. I would like to see that addressed by the company. And so I guess the appropriate place to put it is to, to do it as a condition. But I'm concerned about
No,
that.
I understand that, sure. Could you articulate issues like you?
That the applicant rename that brand.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on these 2 applications? Okay, fine. Then, could I ask please then for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Platinum Hydrolab Incorporated, MCN 281510?
So moved.
Have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Doyle. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license for Platinum Hydrolab Incorporated, MCN 281510. Let me next ask, please, for a motion to approve the staff recommendation for Platinum Hydrolab Incorporated, MPN 281540, product manufacturer, subject to the condition requested by Commissioner McBride. Can I have such a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Doyle. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license for Platinum Hydrolab Incorporated, MPN 281540, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner McBride. The resonate first 3 together?
First 2.
First 2 together, okay. And then separate locations for the 2 retail?
Yes.
Thank you. So we'll consider 2 licenses together and vote separately. First, Resonate Incorporated, MCN 281259, Tier 3 indoor cultivation, and then Resonate Incorporated, MPN 281753, product manufacturer. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is Resonate Incorporated. The proposed location is 120 Gilboa Street, located in Douglas. The 2 licenses being sought are a Tier 3 indoor cultivation license and a product manufacturing license. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on April 10th of 2018. A community outreach meeting was held on August 29th of 2019. The commission did receive municipal responses from the municipality on January 15th of 2020, stating that the applicant was in compliance with all local ordinances or bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of the 2 provisional licenses subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. Any comments or questions before I ask for a motion on these 2 license applications? Commissioner Tyler? You got the right company here?
Is it resonate?
I'm sorry, I just felt it was appropriate to, go ahead.
My apologies for earlier.
My apologies for doing that. I won't do that again.
Let's just keep apologizing for forever. Okay, I'd like to add a condition, please, to revise the diversity plan goals, specifically 30% for a list of several populations, including women.
Any other comments or questions before I ask for a motion? And we'll do these separately. So I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on provisional license for Resonate Incorporated, MCN 281259, subject to the condition requested by Commissioner Title.
So moved.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show that Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Doyle. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license for Resonate Incorporated, MCN 281259, subject to the condition requested by Commissioner Title. Let me next ask, please, for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on provisional license for Resonate Incorporated, MPN 281753, again, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Can I have such a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Doyle. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license for Resonate Incorporated, MPN 281753, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Thank you. Next, Resonate Incorporated, MRN 281249, retail, Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, the applicant here is Resonate Incorporated. The proposed location is 1191 Millbury Street, located in Worcester. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on August 13th of 2018. The community outreach meeting was held on August 28th of 2019, and the commission did receive a municipal response on January 16th of 2020, stating that the applicant was in compliance with local ordinances or bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of the provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you, Ms. Potvin. Before I ask for a motion, Commissioner Title, do you have the same, would you like to impose the same condition on both the, well, we haven't done it, I'll wait till we get to the next one. Any other comments or questions before I ask for a motion on this? Okay, thank you. Then let me ask for a motion, please, to approve the staff recommendation on Resonate Incorporated, MRN 281249, subject to the condition requested by Commissioner Title. Can I have such a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Title. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license for Resonate Incorporated, MRN 281249, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Thank you. Next is Resonate Incorporated, MRN 282398, retail. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the applicant here again is Resonate Incorporated. The proposed location is 110 Pleasant Street, located in Northampton. The license being sought is a retail license. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on July 12th of 2019. A community outreach meeting was held on May 23rd of 2019, and the commission did receive a municipal response on December 12th of 2019, stating that the applicant was in compliance with local ordinances or bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license, subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. Commissioner Title, would you like the same condition?
Yes, please.
Any other comments or questions? And then can I ask, please, for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on a provisional license for Resonate Incorporated, MRN 282398, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show that Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Title. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on Resonate Incorporated, MRN 282398, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Thank you. Next up is River Run Gardens LLC, MBN 281332, which is a microbusiness, cultivation only. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is River Run Gardens LLC. The proposed location is 5 Perkins Way, Unit 8, located in Newburyport. The license being sought is a micro-business with cultivation operations only. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on May 2nd of 2019. A community outreach meeting was held on April 3rd of 2019, and the commission did receive a municipal response on January 2nd, 2020, stating that the applicant was in compliance with local ordinances or bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Before I ask for a motion, are there any questions or comments on this? Commissioner Title.
I have a condition to add for the diversity plan. It was a very good diversity plan. It was original, it had an apprenticeship program. Nonetheless, I'd like to request a condition to change the goal of 5% women.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions for us for a motion?
I have a
Yeah,
comment.
Commissioner McBride.
I would like for the applicant to update their security plan to reflect the appropriate section of the regs. I know that this was kind of fluid because we were also amending our regulations at the time. They just have a citation in here that's to section 7A. It should be section 9A, so it's a pretty simple fix. The other piece is that they need to clarify per 500-110-9A that both law enforcement and the commission are notified of any reportable incident immediately, and that a written report is filed with the commission within 10 days. Right now, the way that it's stated is that the written report is filed within 10 days. We need to be notified with law enforcement of a reportable incident. Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner McBride? Any other comments or questions on this? Okay, thank you. Then I'd like to ask, please, for a motion to approve staff recommendation on provisional license for River Run Gardens LLC, MBN 281332, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioners Tidal and McBride.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Second. Let the record show Commissioner Tidal made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show that the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license for River Run Gardens LLC, MBN 281332, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioners Tidal and McBride. Thank you. Okay. Next up is the Botanist Incorporated, MRN 282160, retail. Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just scrolling down to it. Just bear with me 1 second.
Yeah, no, take your time. I could use the break of my vocal cords, so.
Sorry about that, Mr.
I
Chairman.
know, as I said, I really appreciate the break, so I know you did that just to help me out, so thank you.
The applicant here, as you stated, Mr. Chairman, is the Botanist Incorporated. The proposed location is 65 Pullman Street, located in Worcester, Mass. The license being sought here is a retail license. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on July 18th of 2018. A community outreach meeting was held on November 26th of 2018. The commission did receive a municipal response on August 1st of 2019, stating that the applicant was in compliance with local ordinances or bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ask for comments, please, before I ask for a motion. Commissioner McBride.
How many medical licenses does this licensee or any affiliate companies hold right now, provisional or otherwise?
Commissioner McBride, and just to begin by note this relative to your question, in the memorandum that is the staff memorandum that's submitted to the commission, on page 2, it provides a background of the application and license status of the wholly owned subsidiary of Acreage, which is the Botanist, the applicant before you for consideration, as well as it addresses the licensing status of certain applicants and current licensees with which Acreage, the parent company, has contractual agreements that are the subject of that memorandum. There has been a clarification to that, and I believe an updated memorandum was circulated. But to be clear, the Botanist currently operates one medical marijuana treatment center in Worcester. The Botanist, the wholly owned subsidiary of Acreage, additionally holds 2 provisional medical marijuana treatment center licenses for dispensaries in Shrewsbury and Leominster. With regard to the companies with which the parent company Acreage has contractual agreements with, Patient-Centric and Martha's Vineyard holds 1 medical marijuana treatment center license. That's a provisional license for their West Tisbury location. An additional company that the parent company Acreage has contractual relationships with is Health Circle. They're currently provisioned as a medical marijuana treatment center. And additionally, they have an application for a provisional license that I believe is currently in the siting profile stage. So altogether, currently, with respect to the medical licenses, there is one final license owned by the botanist that is currently operating in Worcester. There are a total of 4 provisional licenses comprising both the botanist's existing medical marijuana treatment center licenses, but also the companies, Health Circle and Patient Centric of Martha's Vineyard, that have licenses in one application.
So what is the nature of the relationship between the parent company and, or the nature of the agreements between the parent company and Health Circle and Patient-Centric Martha's Vineyard? Can you talk a little bit about what those management agreements look like? Because if, we are to kind of remind ourselves, right, when we talk about control and we talk about limitations, one of the things that we have been very specific about asking from the earliest inception of our regulations through to conditions that we put on licenses, including for Health Circle, through our latest round of regulations where the chair led the drafting of a refinement of our control. One of the things we've really been concerned about has been the management contracts and what those relationships are and whether they form either explicitly or implicitly a controlling relationship. So can you talk a little bit about the nature of those agreements?
Yes, and consistent with that concern, Commission Enforcement staff in July of 2019 issued an inquiry notice to Acreage requesting identification, production of documents for those all contractual agreements that they have with any marijuana establishment or MTC applicant or licensee. That information was provided by Acreage. Those documents were reviewed. The substance of that analysis is addressed in the staff memorandum under Section 3, investigative findings. To summarize, essentially, staff looked at these agreements to determine whether or not, under the Commission's current regulations as promulgated in November of 2019, whether these agreements constituted control. So some of the things that we looked at was the nature of the services that were being provided, the remuneration that was being provided, and whether that amounted to 10% or more of net profits of the company, which is, or of the affiliate, I should say, which is one of the elements of a controlling relationship. We also looked at whether or not these management agreements and the underlying loan agreements were really one agreement in of themselves. So what that means is that essentially these management services agreements provide for various key services in building out and operating a marijuana company. Separate from that, there's a agreement with both Patient-Centric and Martha's Vineyard and Health Circle. And I don't mean to overly generalize, but generally there's this management services agreement and then separately a loan agreement. What we found through analysis of the contractual arrangement was that if the master services agreement, the consulting arrangement, were terminated or defaulted, we asked the question of what effect that would have on the loan agreement. Essentially to be able to prepare for the Commission's review whether the loan agreement is a traditional financing arrangement or if that loan agreement ultimately incorporates the conditions of the master services agreement, which provide for remuneration. It's a little bit different for Health Circle and Patient-Centric and Martha's Vineyard, and that's outlined in the memo, but essentially a portion of sales for the affiliate company. So we wanted to look to see if that condition, if that contractual arrangement, the obligation to pay a certain amount of money, a certain percentage of sales in exchange for consulting services was simply that, or if that remuneration was tied to the loan agreement. And I can get further into that, but I don't know if that answers your question.
So kind of boiling it down, the nature of that relationship seems to suggest that there may be some situations where, because of that agreement, there could be some decisions that are made, there could be some right to veto, there could be some rights with regard to operations of those entities that would be controlled, or that there would be elements of decision making that could look a lot like control on the part of the parent company. Is that an accurate statement?
It is, and specifically with respect to the agreement with Patient-Centric and Martha's Vineyard, we did see some express language in the loan agreement and the management services agreement that essentially spoke to that. So the parent company's right to review and approve annual operational budgets. We also looked at provisions that pertain to the appointment of directors, to the board of the affiliate. And there was some express language in the Patient-Centric and Martha's Vineyard contract. For Health Circle, the relationship was more what the effect of having to abide by the consulting services agreement, accept those services as a condition of receiving capital loan financing.
So do we think we have a situation, or do we know if we have a situation here where we have an applicant that may have interests in other entities that, if they were true, would cause there to be they'd be over the cap in terms of their interest? Do we have a situation like that here? I mean, to sort of hear what the relationships were that you stated at the outset, it seems as though there are 6, right? Is that accurate? 6 provisional licenses that may be in play here, 5 or 6?
Five provisional and 1 application.
On the medical side.
On the medical side,
So I
right?
should-
So before we, I think, because control is, it's a suitability issue, I think that we need to have a determination about whether there has been, whether we have an applicant that's over the cap limit before we can proceed with looking at these other applications for adult use. Because if that is the case, then that will have an effect on the way that we view that application, right? And then the recommendation of our staff. And so I think that there's a a condition precedent here that needs to be satisfied before we can move into the dialogue about the adult use. Does that make?
No, I think it makes perfect sense to me, and I understand. I guess I'm interested in your thoughts about what the appropriate next step is, with the concerns you just raised. So,
I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more from our staff about whether the way that things stand right now, and with conversations that we haven't been privy to, that we have an overview of, but that they have been privy to, whether there is an issue of a cap limit problem here, whether there are control issues, specifically with regard to the provisional licenses for Health Circle and for Patient-Centric Martha's Vineyard, and if it comes back that there are control issues there, what would the company decide to do to move forward? And what's their game plan for how they intend to move forward, understanding that we can't, right? We're statutorily prohibited, as well as under regulations, from issuing licenses where there are more than 3 in any one particular category.
so thank you. I guess a couple of things I just want to point out. Certainly I don't want to stop this conversation. It's a really important conversation, but I just want to point out a couple of things. One is the staff was asked to provide facts about these contracts, and I want to actually compliment the staff. I mean, the fact that it took me 4 hours to read through all the documents is probably a small subset of the amount of time that was invested in creating those documents, and I think that guys did a really thorough job, so I thank you for that. But we did not ask the staff to make a determination on control or CAF violations. We asked them to provide us with the facts, which I think they've done a great job of. I believe, my opinion is it's our decision about control. I personally would love to hear from the staff what you described, but I don't think it's appropriate to put the staff on the spot right now.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, but I do think that what you proposed is a very reasonable next step, as long as we give the staff some time to modify our request, because our request at this point has been, tell us the facts, to the kind of question. I think we just need to give some time for that. So one option is to table these 2 license applications until such time as we can have the staff back and do that. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's what I'm suggesting.
Can I have other comments or questions on that before I ask? Commissioner Tyler.
One additional question about PCMV. It was discovered that PCMV has to obtain the approval of acreage before appointing any new member to its board of directors. Is that right?
Correct, and the agreement as currently constituted contains that provision.
Okay, and our regulations specifically refer to appointing more than 50% of the directors as one of the factors regarding right of control.
Correct.
And that relationship was not disclosed to us initially as a controlling relationship. Is that right?
It was discovered through the production of documents in response to the inquiry notice, and the disclosure on the botanist application does list the entities with which they have contractual agreements with, including PCMV and Health Circle, and that disclosure was made as part of the botanist application. However, that disclosure also expressly states the position of the licensee or the applicant that they do not constitute controlling interests.
So it was disclosed as a contractual arrangement, but not as a controlling relationship.
Correct, that's the current status.
Okay. Also, am I reading correctly that in contrast to earlier decisions we've made where the agreements were reformed or changed before they were put in front of us, in this case, there's been an intent to reform those provisions, but they have not yet been made?
Correct. So for both PCMV and Acreage, PCMV and Health Circle, Acreage responded to the notice and identified, so that request identified certain provisions we sought a response on. Acreage stated their position and actually provided some further detail later in the process, articulating their intent to reform certain provisions should they pose control issues.
Thank you. So based on that, I have a few concerns. I'm very concerned about a arrangement that is specifically referred to in our regulations, not being represented as a controlling relationship. That's a suitability issue to me, both for current licenses and future licenses. If we were voting today, I wouldn't be prepared to approve. With regard to coming back to discuss this further, I'd like to, if possible, discuss all of the licenses in question together, just for efficiency and completeness. Another concern I have is just the request to consider this application, considering possible future action or putting a condition on today's decision. That is not what conditions are for, in my opinion. And I think we've been very clear since the beginning about what our regulations are, what the intent of our regulations are, and we've made that even clearer in our last revision. So I'm concerned about that request. And then finally, I'm concerned about the staff time. Your team has done an incredible, thorough job with the investigation and communicating it effectively as well. And that is all time that could have been used moving other applications forward or any of the other things that your team works on. So if we do come back to consider all the licenses and possibly see an agreement like we've seen in the past, I'd like it to consider all of those issues.
Yes, Commissioner Doyle.
Sorry, I just have a question of clarification for Commissioner Title. So I appreciate that goes driving me nuts. The idea of discussing all the licenses that are affected by these considerations. However, I'm just trying to be mindful of due process to those applicants, and I think they should be notified, and they're all in different procedural postures, if I had to guess. So one thing I would just ask the staff to do, to the extent that we are going to table these two applications and potentially discuss other applications, is we need to be very mindful of what their procedural posture is and provide notice of exactly what we are talking about when we are talking about these licensees.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm feeling pretty clearly that we should make a motion to table this, but I would like to ask for some specific language about tabling it and then what, or at least what we expect to be the next step here. I don't know, Commissioner McBride and/or Commissioner Title, or frankly anybody else, are you comfortable coming up with language around not tabling it? I've got that, but what are the next steps? Are you comfortable with that, Commissioner McBride? Thank you. And by the way, this motion will apply to both botanist applications that are on the agenda today.
So I move that the commission table the consideration of the applications MRN 282160 and MRN 282186, pending a determination by commission staff about the issue of control and whether there are license cap limits that have been exceeded by the company or any affiliates with regard to any agreements that the company may have with applicants pending before the commission.
Thank you. Before I ask for a motion, are there any comments on Commissioner McBride? I have one, but are there any other comments on the proposed motion? This is more of a question, Commissioner McBride. You use the word ask the staff to determine. Is that what we're asking staff to do, or offering their perspective? The reason I'm saying it, I think it's our determination ultimately about whether these are control violations and cap violations. So,
Offer an opinion.
is that okay with you? Yes, Mr. Executive Director.
Wordsmith, on the determination piece, I think it's ultimately,
Pardon?
on the determination wordsmithing, I think ultimately it's the commission's prerogative to agree or disagree with a determination or opinion. So it might just be semantics, but I think staff is clear as to what our role is versus the commission. So
Okay, I just want to make sure that for all of us. Okay. Then might I ask, please, for a second of Commissioner McBride's motion?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Then let the record show the commission unanimously approved the motion of Commissioner McBride to table these two applications subject to the next steps that she requested, and the vote was unanimous. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes, Commissioner Flanagan.
I have one question. Is there a timeline that we're going to work under with regards to taking action on this?
I think that's a great question. I'm going to certainly defer to the executive director on that in terms of how much time he thinks it's going to take for the staff to get to the point where they can make an objective recommendation here. My hope, and this is literally a hope, so this is not a request as much as a hope, is that we can shoot for our next meeting in March. I don't know if that's a realistic expectation, Mr. Executive Director.
I would argue, Mr. Chairman, it's not totally up to us.
Correct.
To how this may proceed. I would, to Mr. Payer and his staff and the licensing team, we have sufficient information, or an abundance of information, I should say, to process through, as indicated or as referenced by the materials for you today, but also we would expect to engage the applicants and entities, to Commissioner Doyle's point, to provide sufficient notice. I think it is understood the urgency, and I think we'll operate accordingly, but it's, we would need to engage.
Yeah, thank you. Is that okay with you, Commissioner Fleming? Yeah, I appreciate that. I do feel like we should move fast, but obviously with the appropriate process and the appropriate opportunity for input from the applicant as well as from our staff. So we'll do it as quickly as we can, but thank you. Any other comments on these two applications that we just tabled before I move on to the last two provisional license applications? Okay, I want to thank the staff for the work that went into this and the detail of that work. I also want to thank Commissioner McBride and Commissioner Tuttle for their proactive raising of issues and proposing a path forward, so thank you for that. Okay, we have two more to go. Next is the Heirloom Collective Incorporated, MRN 283029. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is the Heirloom Collective Incorporated. The proposed location is 457 Russell Street, located in Hadley, Mass. The license being sought here is a retail license. The applicant did execute a host community agreement on September 25th of 2019. A community outreach meeting was held on September 26th of 2019. The commission did receive a municipal response on January 16th of 2020, stating that the applicant was in compliance with all local ordinances or bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license with the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Any questions or comments? Then could I ask please for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on provisional license for the Heirloom Collective Incorporated, MRN 283029?
So moved.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Tuttle. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license to the Heirloom Collective Incorporated, MRN 283029. Thank you. We are on our last one, Western Front LLC, MRN 281907. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is the Western Front LLC. The proposed location is 121 Webster Avenue, located in Chelsea, Mass. The license being sought is a retail license. Just to identify this as well, this is an economic empowerment applicant. The applicant here did execute a host community agreement on September 21st of 2018. A community outreach meeting was held on October 17th of 2019, and the commission did receive a municipal response on December 18th of 2019, stating that the applicant was in compliance with local ordinances or bylaws. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Potvin. Any questions before I ask for a motion? Then can I ask please for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on provisional license for Western Front LLC, MRN 281907?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Tuttle. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation on provisional license for Western Front LLC, MRN 281907. Mr. Potvin, my thanks. Anything else that we missed? Any other licenses that you'd like us to discuss?
No,
Sure.
pretty comprehensive.
I think, okay, well, thank you again, Mr. Potvin, but to all the licensing staff that's been involved in this. It's prodigious amounts of work, and I truly appreciate how hard you guys are working, but also how efficiently you guys are working, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Payer, thank you very much for your help on the two botanist applications. Mr. Executive Director, anything else from a licensing standpoint that you'd like to discuss? Great. Then let us move on the agenda. We have, as I said, three items in the commission discussion and vote section. I want to point out it's commission discussion and votes, which some of these are discussions, some of these are votes, but not everything is both a discussion and a vote, including the diversity plan best practice. It is 20 of 1. My request would be, can we go through A and B? Well, let's keep going. How are people feeling?
I could actually use a short break.
Okay, so then why don't we use this good time? How long would you like?
5 minutes.
That's not enough time to go downstairs. So,
I would like 10 minutes.
okay, why don't we, let's reconvene at 5 minutes is 1, okay? Thank you.